Well, this pandemic sure has changed a tremendous amount. Got masks now that we wear, and unfortunately we're not being able to get together in person, which I would love to be able to meet each one of you personally. But as we meet virtually, we're getting to obviously cover a lot of different topics because of the new formats. And one of the things as an advisor, we always want to look for any way that we can help anyone possible. And one of the areas that really is an area that we can help a lot of people is in the veteran area, in the veteran market. There's so many veterans right now that are retired that, and most of it we're seeing because of a lot of the Vietnam era and things like that. So we're going to jump into just taking a look at a few things. One is VA healthcare. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at TRICARE for Life, some of the long-term care issues that come up with that, and some of the resources that you can have as an advisor. So we'll spend a little bit of time on each one of those. And at the end of the presentation, I'll share my email address with you too for any specific questions that you might have, because there's so many areas with things that do with veterans that are very specific to the individuals themselves. So let's jump into it and take a look at some of the interesting things that are happening with veterans. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right, the first thing I'd like to take a look at a little bit is the population itself. I mentioned just now that so many are veterans, but there was 9 million individuals that served during the Vietnam War. And because of that, it is really increasing the individuals who are now at retirement age. If the average age was 22 during Vietnam, for those who served, that means those individuals are from anywhere from 67 to 81 or 82 right now. And so because of that, you're seeing individuals have a lot of questions about that. And you're going to see in 10 years or so, about 700,000 that are going to come on from the Gulf War. So as you continue with your practice, you're going to experience that. About 98% of those that are retired are men. So you're going to see a lot around that, but you're also going to have some situations that deal with veterans benefits and things that deal with widows and survivors, etc., that are also going to induce a lot of questions for you. So it is important for us to make sure that we look at this. And one of the sad things I think about veterans is that they have so many things they've worked and risked their lives to earn as far as benefits that they're just simply not aware of. Or if they did have information, the information may be older information, and so they don't necessarily know that they are actually eligible for some of those benefits. So one of the first ones that we're going to look at is the VA healthcare system and what it actually means to become eligible for VA benefits. Essentially, if you served active military and didn't get a dishonorable discharge, then you probably need to apply. And as you'll see here on the screen, if you enlisted after 1980, the requirement for 24 months was put in place, that you had to be active for at least 24 months. But before then, that wasn't in place. And because of that, most individuals that you're going to deal with are eligible for VA benefits. But one notable item that's on this slide is that individuals that were in the Reserve or National Guard or have had active duty service for training purposes only don't qualify for VA health care. And as we're going to also go into, having eligibility for VA healthcare does not necessarily mean that you can get that healthcare. So you have to be able to access it as well. And these guidelines that they have for eligibility for VA healthcare continue to change all of the time. There's one of the things that I always recommend for any advisor to do is have their clients go see their veteran service officer at least every 12 to 18 months, just to see what they're eligible for now at their current age. So what do they do? What does VA healthcare system do? If they are eligible for VA healthcare, then they're going to provide a wide array of different types of services. And their 4 goals are stated as to treat illnesses or injuries, prevent future health problems, improve your ability to function, and enhance your quality of life. That's what they're trying to do. And with the pandemic, a lot of the things that they do have actually changed. There was 1,000% increase in telehealth services just because of the pandemic, for instance. But on June 6th of 2019, they launched, as part of the VA Mission Act, a real front on urgent care facilities. So they made arrangements through a network of outside vendors to be able to have access to urgent care facilities so that individuals can get assistance where they need to. Now, if you want to find out information on that, the best site to go to is at va.gov/find-locations. And that's going to give you a whole set for your clients of places that they can go to utilize the urgent care facilities. But the VA Community Network, Community Care Network, or CCN, that's the VA Healthcare's direct link with community providers. And they are very careful with that to make sure that individuals receive, timely care. In fact, they use a third-party administrator to make sure that the individuals are, the network is sufficient, that the claims are being processed properly, and the quality of care is where it should be. The notable exceptions to providing care is making sure that they have prior approval. If it's not an emergency, if it's not truly something that is life-threatening or an urgent situation, then they have to have VA's prior approval before utilizing those. But if it is urgent, then they can go ahead and use those facilities, and then they file that claim afterwards. I thought something too was kind of interesting too, is that the VA is looking into a lot of really unique alternative ways of providing services and opening up some new things for veterans. They're doing things like Tai Chi, which I think is kind of interesting, yoga, acupuncture, what they call dry needling, health coaching. A lot of those kind of different things are being added to the VA healthcare system that would have really been unheard of before. But a lot of it is around pain management. In fact, even Medicare is doing a lot of very interesting things with pain management and trying to address all of those issues. So you're seeing a lot of new types of healthcare enter the picture. But the VA healthcare system is very, very inclusive. One thing I might note too is that when we're talking about the VA healthcare system, it is different than a military hospital. A military hospital is normally a facility that's on base or close to a base, but the VA healthcare system is a different system than that and is used generally for individuals that are veterans, where the military hospitals are going to, of course, address active duty individuals more often. But in order to become eligible for VA healthcare, they put you into a priority group. And there's 8 priority groups. And unfortunately, that means that you can either get in quickly or may not ever get in at all, depending on what priority groups you are. And if you're in group 8, you might have a lot of difficulty accessing care. So if somebody says, I'm eligible for VA benefits, that's fine, but you need to know what kind of priority groups that they're in. But you can also help your clients a tremendous amount by helping them move up priority groups. Individuals with deteriorating hearing or other issues may move priority groups because of that. A lot of different kinds of situations move people around, and the rules for that change frequently. But I'm going to go through those 8 priority groups with you to kind of give you an idea of that. And I'm just kind of read through some of these for you so that you can kind of understand what those 8 priority groups actually are. Priority group 1, in other words, who's going to get in there first, for sure, is if they have a service-connected disability and they've rated them at 50% or more disabling. Or they have a service-connected disability that they've concluded makes you unable to work or unemployable. They might use that term as well. Or you received a Medal of Honor. That puts you in priority group 1. And I also might note too that if you have a mental health issue, they will see you too, regardless of your priority group. So in other words, they want to make sure that they're addressing those urgent needs of mental health services. Priority group 2, you have a service-connected disability that they rated at 30 to 40% disabling. So you can see if you can do something that moves them up to where their percentage of rating of disability changes, then they can start to bump up these priority groups and gives them tremendous more access to care. And again, like I mentioned before, I guess the one that most is outstanding to me is the hearing, simply because it's a pretty easy way to move up some of these priority groups. Priority group 3, you are a former prisoner of war, or you received a Purple Heart, or you were discharged for a disability that was caused by or got worse because of active duty service, or you have a service-connected disability that's rated from 10 to 20% disabling. So those and again, these are broad strokes. There's always the exceptions to all of these, but these will give you a pretty good idea. Priority group 4, they assign you group 4 if you're receiving VA aid and attendance, which I'm going to go through in just a little bit for you, or household benefits, or have received a VA determination of being catastrophically disabled. Priority group 5, you don't have a service-connected disability, or you have a non-compensatable service-connected disability. And by non-compensatable service disability, they actually rate that as a 0% disabled. That's something that's rather unusual, and it throws a lot of people off when they start looking at some of these different benefits. They'll see 0% disabled. It may not seem like it makes any sense, but basically that just means that they're not compensating you financially for that. Or you're receiving VA pension benefits, or you're eligible for Medicaid. That's priority group 5. Group 6, one of the main areas is if you served in Vietnam between January of 62 or May of 75, served in the Persian Gulf War from 90 to 98, served at active duty at Camp Lejeune for at least 30 days between 1953 and 1987. And then you might also be in priority group 6 if you were in a theater of combative operations of 98 and were discharged for active duty on or after 2003, or were discharged less than 5 years ago. So that's group 6. Group 7 is your gross household income is below the geographically adjusted income limits, or you agree to have copays. Now it's interesting here, group 7 is where a lot of these copays start entering in. And as advisors for individuals to carry other plans, we have to start looking at, okay, you have VA benefits, can you get to it? And if you can't get to it, how much is it going to cost you? So there's a lot of things to consider. You can't just say, okay, well, you have that, so now let's look at this other benefit to it. So when it comes to veterans, it's you have that, can you get to it? And if so, how much is it going to cost you when you do? And then priority group 8 is your gross household income is above VA income limits, and you agree to pay copays. So there's inside group 8, there's also a subgroup of A through G that also prioritizes all of that. And if you'd like to have all the details on all of these, I'll be happy to email them to you, and you can just read them to your heart's content. But keep in mind though that this, and I stress this so much because I have seen so many people miss out on benefits because they went and saw their VSO 5 years ago when they retired, or 2 years ago or whatever, and the laws changed or their health changed, and they just don't think to go back and do it. And they definitely need to do that to make sure that in case that happens. So again, local VSO, extremely important. So what if you have other health insurance? Let's say you have a private plan, Medicare, Medicaid, or maybe even TRICARE. The VA will must bill your private health insurance for any care that is non-service connected. So in fact, even with TRICARE, we're going to go into TRICARE for Life in a little bit. And when you start seeing that kind of a situation, some of those can be quite expensive for what they will actually cost that individual. But since they're both government programs, VA doesn't bill Medicare or Medicaid, but they could bill supplemental health insurance. So if they have a MedSup or something like that, the VA system could potentially bill them. But here's the key point, and that last bullet point there, and I won't read slides to you because I know that's irritating, but whether or not you have health insurance doesn't affect VA healthcare benefits that you can get. You have a lot of opportunities here to utilize some of these different things for yourself. But you do have to, again, keep in mind that the priority groups, as far as eligibility for other programs, whether or not you want to go ahead and layer in another benefit program for yourself. So as far as copays, I mentioned those earlier to kind of give you an idea of that. If you're in priority groups 6 through 8, veterans will pay $15 for primary care visits, $50 for a specialty care visit, and then they will also pay for the first 90 days, $1,394 plus $10 a day per diem if they go and stay in the facility. One of the things that we often see, though, are individuals who carry those kind of plans, but then they go to the VA to get their medications. Just as an update on those numbers, and most of you may be familiar with these, but the Tier 1 generics are $5. The Tier 2 non-preferred generics are $8, and any name brand are $11 when it comes to the prescriptions that they fill at the VA. So, what are the advantages of enrolling in Medicare? Well, the very first point I think is an important one. We don't know what the future holds. We just simply don't know when the rules are going to change, and that person that doesn't have that all of a sudden is going to need something else. And it is important to keep in mind that a person doesn't necessarily have to enroll into Medicare Part B if they just stay completely inside the VA healthcare system. But if they ever go outside that system and all of a sudden need it, then that would be a late enrollment situation. And obviously, a lot of individuals don't want that to happen. So if you want to be able to have access outside of the VA healthcare system and to be able to see the types of doctors that you want to or need to, then having other coverages becomes extremely important for you. I've seen a lot of advisors over the years that will shy completely away from anybody who says that they have any kind of veterans benefits just simply because they don't want to mess them up. And that's good. You don't want to mess them up. But at the same time, you may actually severely limit how much that person can go and get as far as benefits are concerned. And also, another thing about with Part D coverage is there's always a concern of individuals who want to go get medicines. That's limited if you're just using the VA healthcare system for that, because you have to get a veteran or VA facility physician to give you that prescription or authorize that prescription in order for it to be filled at the VA facility. And so because of that situation, you want to be able to open up some alternatives for you in case you want to go and get medicine prescribed by your local doctor and things like that. So opens up a lot of opportunities for you. So if you use TRICARE for Life, now I'll go into a little bit about the definition of TRICARE for Life, but essentially if you retire from the military, the VA facilities are not Medicare authorized providers, and they're not in the TRICARE network. So because of that, for TRICARE for Life, so because of that, Medicare cannot pay at this government facility, and that is obviously a unique situation for individuals that have TRICARE for Life. So if they have a non-service connected condition, they don't need to go to the VA at all because they just can't even bill Medicare. In fact, you could end up with quite substantial bills for yourself if you have TRICARE for Life and just try to use the VA facility for that, because they're going to start back billing them for that. And I'll go into just a little bit more about TRICARE for Life. TRICARE for Life actually is one of the things that opens up one of the biggest opportunities for us as agents. And it's also an area where, in dealing with agents for over the past many, many years, they'll hear that the individual has TRICARE for Life, and they just absolutely will not write anything for that. In this coming year, in fact, we had an Aetna rollout this morning, and there was quite a bit of talk about their TRICARE for Life designed program. I think they're calling it the Eagle program or something like that. But anyway, that program is something that does leave an opportunity for you, because when an individual has been in the military for roughly 20 years, they have to be active duty, but then there's other reasons they may retire earlier than that. But if they retire from the military, almost like they were on a group for that long, then they are eligible for TRICARE for Life. And so I just want to make sure that you see and hear the right terms with this, because as you look for information on veterans benefits, you'll see TRICARE used a lot, and you have to be really careful that you're not applying TRICARE rules to TRICARE for Life, because they are very, very different situations. TRICARE for Life is managed by the Department of Defense. And then, of course, Medicare is managed by CMS, or Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And so you have two coordinating organizations working to manage TRICARE for Life. So as we look at TRICARE for Life, it is a Medicare wraparound program. So you have situations where Medicare is going to come into the picture, and then TRICARE for Life functions very much like a Medicare supplement. There are things that Medicare covers that TRICARE doesn't, and there's things that TRICARE covers that Medicare doesn't. Like, for instance, TRICARE for Life covers services overseas, where Medicare has limited coverage for services overseas. And Medicare will cover things like chiropractic care, where TRICARE for Life doesn't. So you're going to have some of those kind of situations. But since it's a Medicare wraparound, Medicare can be delivered either as original Medicare or as a Medicare Advantage. So if it's Medicare Part C or original Medicare, TRICARE for Life can wrap around either of those. I think the biggest key with that is, if you are going to use a Medicare Advantage program, that you more than likely want to use an MA only program. You can use an MAPD, but it's a little bit messy when it comes to some of the medications and things like that. But it is a wraparound program. A couple things that get asked quite a bit is, how does TRICARE for Life handle long-term care situations? Well, much like Medicare, TRICARE for Life doesn't. TRICARE for Life does cover skilled nursing facilities. It follows a lot of the same rules that Medicare does, where you have to have a hospital stay before. And then when you go into the hospital, then you can, out of the hospital after 3 days, and you can go into a skilled nursing facility as long as you're rated as a skilled nursing facility. So the interesting thing is, though, that after 100 days, TRICARE for Life won't stop if that person is still needing that care and the care has been authorized. In fact, there's not a time limit on that. So TRICARE for Life can function for an extended period of time for skilled nursing facilities. But again, like everything else, it has to be approved, and you have to make sure that the situation is appropriate. You have to make sure you're in a TRICARE approved facility and things like that. So there's some rules and regulations around it, but it does offer that. The other side is on the medications. This is an area where you do want to be very careful. TRICARE for Life has a very comprehensive prescription drug program that is underwritten by Express Scripts, so they handle a lot of all the different technical parts of that program. But it does provide some really good prescription drug benefits. It covers a lot of different types of medications and does a good job with that. So I would recommend be very cautious before you have somebody start using that. It can happen, but it gets pretty messy when you start trying to combine the TRICARE for Life prescription drug benefits with something like a Part D plan or something like that. So it's generally better to shy away from that. There's a handbook that is like a Bible that you see a picture of it there on the slide. But if you go to this tricare.mil and to download this particular TRICARE for Life brochure, it's over there on the right-hand side of that website. You'll see it down on the far right-hand side of it. That is something that if you're going to work in this field at all, or if you have agents that may be working in this field, you need to probably keep one of those on hand, or keep a link to where you can get it. They update it once a year. This particular one, the handbook was updated in February of this year, and so they'll update it again, I'm sure, the first part of next year as well. But that's a good place to go to answer a lot of questions. And then they have some interesting brochures. This one that I have a link to here, and like I said, just if you want to email me, and I'll be happy to send you these links. But the TRICARE and Medicare for turning age 65 is also a really, really handy piece to have, especially if you have agents or yourself working turning 65 leads and things like that. The question then very often becomes, who pays first? You know, if you have TRICARE for Life, how does all of this flow? So just to kind of keep in mind the way that TRICARE for Life, it is a Medicare wraparound. So that traditionally Medicare is going to pay, and then TRICARE for Life gets filed and it pays. But if it's not covered by TRICARE, by Medicare, then TRICARE for Life pays it, and then the claim gets filed through WPS. If you see that term WPS, that stands for the Wisconsin Physician Services, and they're the individuals who process the claims for the TRICARE, when TRICARE is responsible for those claims themselves. If they have individual coverage, so they don't have group health insurance, then Medicare is going to pay first. Then if they have other health insurance, it's going to come in and play then, and then it gets filed with TRICARE. If they have group insurance, then the group insurance plan pays, then Medicare is going to pay, then TRICARE for Life pays. Now that's assuming it's a group of 20 or more. If it's a group of under 20, then it goes, as you might imagine, Medicare, then the other health insurance, and then TRICARE for Life. But this brochure that's available, if you go to medicare.gov, over on the right-hand side, there's the resources. You drop down to free publications and just search for who pays first. You'll find this guide for you, and it can show you exactly who's going to pay first, and not just TRICARE situations, in any situations like that. And by the way, that site on medicare.gov to get free publications, man, that is a great resource for you as an advisor. In fact, there's even ways of getting Medicare publications in bulk for individuals who are advisors. So use those services. They're two of my favorite things, free and compliant. I love those two things. All right. In order to receive their benefits, though, they have to have everything updated in the DEERS system or the Defense Enrollment Reporting System. They need to make sure if they've been married or divorced, or if they've changed their addresses, or obviously when they become eligible for Medicare, then in order to be able to get those benefits, they have to be up to date in DEERS. So if you are working turning 65, that's a great thing to sit down with your clients with and do it, and help them make sure that their information is up to date in the DEERS system, so that anything that they might need, they can actually access and get any way that they need that. So that's where a lot of people drop the ball, by the way. They don't keep their information up to date, and so therefore they miss benefits that they're eligible for. I mentioned this earlier, this aid and attendance, but it's probably one of the most overlooked areas of veteran benefits that individuals can get. And that is essentially, they can get an increase in their monthly pension. And sometimes it's very sizable. I've seen it in well in excess of $1,000 a month for individuals who didn't even think that they were going to get benefits. So if they need the aid of another individual, then they're going to get this assistance. And where I think this is probably played in for me as helping clients is when individuals are a widow or widower of an individual who was a veteran and don't even think twice about it. Maybe that individual died 20 years ago and they don't even think about now having nursing type care or needing assistance. and getting anything for their pension increased for that, because they don't think about the fact that they may be eligible for it. But as long as they haven't remarried, there's a kind of an unusual exception to that, but as long as they haven't been remarried, even the individual, the surviving spouse can get that. And if somebody can possibly get that assistance, man, you want to help them get that. It's a absolute life changer, and it is overlooked constantly. So if you have clients receiving that, do that. But one note about aid and attendance that I want to mention to you is it is also the most abused online part of veterans benefits. I saw one the other day where somebody had called me and had paid $7,000 to get their aid and attendance benefit from the veterans benefit through some firm. This is something that could have been free. So there's a lot of activity out there. Not all of it's bad, by the way. There are some organizations who help people get aid and attendance, and they get compensated for that. And so I'm not saying that all of that is bad, but there is a lot that is. And there is a ton of predatory activity out online right now for individuals who are looking for information on veterans, and especially around aid and attendance, because they know people are in a difficult position. They know they're really desperately looking for help, and they take advantage of that, unfortunately. Something else too that I might recommend to you as advisors is be very careful of the sites that you're looking at, because man, there's some that just look exactly like their governmental sites, and they have nothing to do with the government whatsoever. And they just really do take advantage of a lot of people. So when you are recommending someone to get this type of information, be really careful. Don't just go to Google and find something and throw it over to them, because it may look very official and not be at all. And aid and attendance is one of those areas, but it's one of the biggest areas you can also help your clients with. The next thing I'd like to go into a little bit is community care. Community care is essentially allowing individuals to get care outside of the VA system without having to try to go to a veterans facility to do that. And they're really expanding that a lot. There's several minute clinics that they've developed that they allow individuals to go to. I mentioned earlier some of the urgent care things that they allow. If somebody needs emergency durable medical equipment, a lot of times they can get things through their community. And they have also, last flu season, they linked up with Walgreens to give free flu shots. Flu season starts in August, so we'll see if they do that again, but they gave free flu shots there for anybody that was a veteran all the way into the first part of this year, all the way through flu season. So you'll see a lot of activities by the veteran community to try to get individuals access to care where and when they need it. And it's getting more and more that way. The thing that they want to protect is making sure that that person is getting the kind of quality care that they need, and that they have access to things when they need them. Now, there are things that the VA hospitals and facilities don't provide, very wide range of different types of things. They provide all of those kind of things through community care as a general rule. But you do have to watch your copays. Watch for what the copays are in those kind of situations. And you need to always obviously look at it and see if it's something that, hey, do I have a plan that may be a better option for them than what they're trying to accomplish with their community care program. Obviously, since so many of the Medicare Advantage programs and things like that are something that's very affordable for an individual, you may open up a whole new opportunity for them there. But that site that is on the slide, that va.gov/community care, you will find a tremendous amount of information there on not just what you can get, but where you can go to get it. I'm going to show you a few of the links here and kind of, you can jot those down. I'll leave the slide up, but it is something, they have something called the VA Welcome Kit. And it's probably one of the most misnamed pieces of material that I've ever seen, but it is great for individuals that are just going into the VA system. But it is a long-term reference for individuals to go back and forth to all the way through their entire life, as far as going back and seeing what kind of benefits are available, seeing how to access those, seeing where to go to find information, etc. It's a fantastic resource. And if nothing else, if you go and grab that welcome kit and take a look at it, it'll probably open your eyes to a lot of things that are available to you and to your clients. And then how to apply for VA healthcare. That how to apply from there, it shows you all the forms and the processes and everything that a person needs so that you can realistically help them through that whole process. Also, I talked before about the VSOs. VSOs generally, if you're going to see a VSO, you'll probably see them inside a veterans hospital, because that's where they have a lot of their offices and things like that. But a veteran service officer are individuals who are going to sit down with that person and see everything that's available to them. And they'll talk to them about some of their eligibilities and things like that. I've met some really great VSOs, and I've met some that weren't so great, like anything else. But it is a good idea to make sure that individuals go back and sit down with them and just say, okay, here's my current situation. Here's what's happened, or I just haven't seen you in a while. Have there been any changes in laws, etc.? And then the VA service related issues. There's some interesting VA service related issues that come up. Like for instance, in the Gulf War, they had a lot of issues with the sand and the dust and that kind of problem. Uranium depletion and things like that happened because of the Gulf War. And then the extreme heat was impacted so many individuals, and pesticides and things like that. But that's with that. But one of the questions that I get quite a bit is around some of the what I call rainbow herbicides, and one of them is Agent Orange, and they call it Agent Orange because the barrel had a white, excuse me, it was a barrel with an orange stripe on it, which is why it was called Agent Orange. But there's Agent Blue, Agent Green, Agent Pink, a lot of the different herbicides that were used over there that exposed individuals. But that's where one of the biggest changes I have seen recently is what they are actually deeming linked to some of the exposures to these herbicides. So to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, since 1991, as far as what they call presumptive exposure, in other words, if you were in this area, it's presumed you were impacted by Agent Orange. Since 1991, those were boots on the ground in Vietnam, which could have meant your plane landed there and you got off and you were there for 2 hours. You were still considered boots on the ground, or you served there. Then they had brown water veterans who served on inland waterways inside Vietnam. And in 2019, veterans who were on ships that were stationed within 12 miles of Vietnam were considered presumed. Now, even before then, they could have been potentially eligible for benefits, but they had to prove that they had some exposure. Now, if they were there, then it's presumed. And this is extremely significant for you. And by the way, one other area too is C-123 planes. Individuals who, and they're the planes that transported all these herbicides and all that kind of stuff. That could have been stateside. They could have been worked on those planes stateside and still been completely exposed. If they did, then it's presumed that they were. Now, the reason that's important, in fact, right now they're even looking at the posts in Thailand and stuff to try to even tie those in. But here's some of the things that are tied automatically to presumed exposure: Hodgkin's disease, diabetes type 2, prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, ischemic heart disease. So you look at these things and think about your clients. How many of them have had this kind of stuff? You know, I know for me personally, over the years, almost all of them have had some kind of conditions like that. In fact, somebody retiring now, there's a 70+% chance that they have 2 or more chronic conditions. And so the chances that somebody had one of these situations is high. And since so many individuals are now retiring that are veterans or are retired, then you're going to see a lot of crossover here with this situation with conditions that they can actually have tied to that. In fact, the average age of a veteran right now is age 65. So it's a very viable market. So taking a look at some of the things with Medicare Advantage, I won't spend a lot of time on this because this is a Medicare Live event. And so you're going to be getting a lot of information on Medicare Advantage and PDPs and all the outlooks and updates and all that kind of thing. But a couple key things is, one, they've obviously got an increase in compensation because of every year that they do get an increase. And in 2020, they got a pay hike of 2.53%. And then in 2020, they got a 1.66% increase in pay. But they also are not, carriers are not having to pay the HIT tax. And because of that, that is also allowing them to increase a lot of their benefits that they have, expand into new areas, lower premiums or stabilize areas. A lot of those kind of things have opened up for you as agents to make sure that you can take advantage of. Another big thing, of course, is end-stage renal disease. Individuals who have end-stage renal disease can now come on to those Medicare Advantage plans. Obviously, they could have kept them if they got it while they had a Medicare Advantage plan, but actually be able to purchase a Medicare Advantage plans with end-stage renal disease is a big change. And again, that kind of ties back into a little bit of that situation with diabetes and some of the exposure, which is why I bring that up. And then you have a lot of different types of mergers and acquisitions and things. And throughout this whole event, you're going to be hearing about a lot of that and how it impacts you. There's just so much opportunity for you. But I'm a huge believer that if we're going to meet with clients, we have to take a holistic view. If there is a benefit, if they're eligible for SLIMB or if they're eligible for some kind of a program out there, then we want to help them. You don't want to go in with blinders on and just say, I'm here to help you enroll into a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare supplement, which one. You want to take a look at their whole situation, everything that they might be eligible for. And like I said before, it may be even things that they were eligible for because of a spouse who has long since died. So you got to ask a lot of questions. If you have not incorporated into your conversation with individuals, are you a veteran, then you certainly need to do that. As far as TRICARE is concerned, and again, there is a difference between TRICARE for Life and TRICARE, but the open season, there's an annual period of open season where the individuals can change their TRICARE plan. And this year it's going to run from November 9th to December the 14th. All of these times run perfectly together with all of our AEP seasons, so I know it gets a little bit crazy. Here's some of my contact information in case you need to get a hold of me or have questions. If there's anything I can help you research, any kind of links that you'd like to have, I do have a set of pretty lengthy, probably 40 or 50 links that are key veteran links that I'll be happy to share with you. But I encourage you to please try to help veterans as much as you possibly can. They've earned these benefits. They may not know it, or they may have misinformation because there is so much misinformation. But if you actually help them to do that, it can complement what you're doing for them. It can help in bad situations like with long-term care situations. But it can also open up tremendous opportunities for you as far as marketing programs to individuals who are eligible for VA healthcare or even have TRICARE for life. So I appreciated spending time with you today. Unfortunately, like I said, we couldn't do it in person, but maybe someday we'll be able to get a chance to actually meet in person. But until then, again, thank you for your time and thank you for what you're doing to help the seniors in America.